I'm Rip Esselstyn, and you're listening to the Plantstrong podcast. Adventure awaits in today's episode. You'll get to meet Colleen Mariotti and learn how her family of four set off on a nomadic life with almost zero Zippo possessions and how they're still able to keep it plant strong, even in some of the most remote parts of the world. Right after this message from Plantstrong. I've got some poppin' good news for you that's sure to make your day a little brighter and your pantry a whole lot tastier. For a limited time, we've got a special promotion that we're rolling out just for you. When you spend $80 or more at plantstrong.com, you'll get a bag of our delicious, whole food, oil-free, unsalted popcorn absolutely free. And that's not it. You'll get free shipping on your entire order to boot. No promo code needed. Simply shop for your favorite Plantstrong items, and once you've got at least $80 in your cart, add popcorn and then head out to the checkout. Stock up on your favorite Plantstrong staples. Try our new burger mixes, our best-selling pancakes, or our beloved pizza kits, and enjoy the perfect snack without any added cost. Our popcorn is the ideal crunchy treat for your next movie night or a quick, healthy snack on the go or that long car ride. So head on over to plantstrong.com, fill your cart with our nourishing plant-powered products, grab a box of popcorn, and take advantage of this tasty offer while supplies last. We often talk about how living a Plantstrong lifestyle is an adventure if you let go of expectations, allow yourself to be more free, and learn to embrace imperfection. Today, I talk with Colleen Mariotti, who, along with her family, have done this in spades when they sold most of their possessions over 10 years ago and started this nomadic lifestyle together. And what do you think she found when she learned to let go? Joy, pleasure, and beautiful people who are willing to help at every turn. And the best part, she also was able to remain plant strong even in the tiniest of villages. In fact, I even found out that she first heard of the Esselstyn family while in Slovenia, of all the places. She chronicles her family's journey on her blog, Livology. So let's meet the person behind the beautiful words, Colleen Mariotti. All right, Colleen, I want to welcome you to the Plantstrong podcast. Where in the world are you located right this second?
First of all, I can't believe I'm hearing your voice because the Esselstyn family is like, you guys are household names for us, but we've listened from all different ports, and I just feel like you're right in front of me. It's crazy. We are currently in Slovenia, which is a village of year-round population about 600, and it's in the Italian Alps. If you go out our door, you'll see the Matterhorn.
Oh, okay. All right. So you are living in the shadow of the Matterhorn. Is that correct?
We're living in the shadow of the Matterhorn, and we can ski to Switzerland from our front door. But it's a lot of elevation between here and there, but you can ski into Zermatt or Italy or down to the next village, which is called Balternage.
Well, so I want you to know that I have been so anticipating this conversation with you because you and your family have done something that my wife and I dreamed of doing with our three children.
Oh, really?
But we never got up the courage to actually pull the trigger on it. And you guys have. And so I cannot wait to dive into all the lessons that you guys have learned over the last 10 years and some of the adventures that you've lived. But first, I want to let you know how I got tuned into you and your Livology blog and Instagram posts. And somebody on the team basically sent me this little excerpt And I'm going to read it for you right now. And I want the audience, everybody to know that Colleen does an amazing job on Instagram, on her social media, on your blogs that you do very, very regularly. Of you usually start and end with some sort of a really profound quote.
Thank you.
And then in between is a nice sandwich of information. So I'm going to be throwing out quotes for you. Colleen, I'm going to be making you work today. So
Please do.
So get ready, right? Those
I'm
armpits
ready.
are going to start sweating.
It's nighttime too, so I'm gonna have to okay.
All right, great. So I want to read everybody. This is how I first got introduced to Colleen and your family. Your husband's Ron.
Yes.
Your sons are Max and Henry, and your daughter's Bianca.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we are a nomadic family of 5, and for over a decade, we have lived in many different countries and cultures. Currently, we are living high up in a small village in the Italian Alps where meat and cheese reign supreme. For our vegan Thanksgiving, we walked/skied to 3 villages before we found celery.
Oh my God.
It is an added challenge, but I wanted to share a story. I've been telling our grocer in our village market about sweet potatoes for months and how much I miss them. He presented me with a bag of sweet potatoes on New Year's Day as a gift. He ordered them especially for us and asked only that we share something that we make with him so he can taste the sweet potatoes for the first time. It took me a few more days to collect these veggies, but I made a sweet potato, chickpea, smoky sheet pan dinner to share with our grocer. As a sauce, I made hummus with roasted red peppers. Our neighbor gifted us, and everyone loved it. Food creates connection and belonging, even when there is no shared language or palate or culture in common. I wonder what plant-based gifts tomorrow will bring. Ciao from our village to yours. And I read that, and I was just like, oh my God, this woman has got a real gift for writing and expression. And that's when I decided that I wanted to reach out to you and bring you on the podcast to discuss this nomadic family of 5 that has been basically, jumping from one incredible adventure to another, one city, one country, because I am drooling with envy. Really, truly am.
I think just hearing, those words come from your mouth, that you heard our story, and that, I just feel so honored to have this invitation. Truly, it's an amazing moment for us.
Yeah. So why don't we go back to the beginning, because I don't even know. So what, you and your husband, Ron, you were school teachers?
We were, and then we had 3 kids in 5 years, and we did Little League, we did Starbucks run. We didn't stand out from the crowd at all. It was just we weren't we're going to go do this crazy thing. And then one day we were looking at schools and tuition and all of these things. And my husband and I had both been very nomadic leading up to getting married. We were both just wandering souls. And
wow.
Everyone had said, it's time to settle down. You have 3 kids. They need socialization. They need, all these social connections, all these sports, all these organized activities. And we were on a hike in the North Cascades one day, and we're like, do they? I mean, maybe we could take all this money that we're going to spend on tuition, and we're going to spend on activities, and we're going to spend on 3 automobiles or 2 automobiles or whatever, and we could just go and use the world as our classroom. And there's a perception that we were, tired of our life or angry with America, or, sometimes people throw all these different assumptions. And I'm always like, we weren't tired of our life. We were inspired by our life. We, as a species, we've been nomadic far longer than we've been stationary. And to me, there's a few people still that feel more comfortable as nomads. And it's not, but when we set off, we didn't really know anyone else doing what we were doing. Now, after post-pandemic, there's words for it, like world schooling and all these different words. But for us, it was just like, let's just see what the world has to teach us while our kids will still have us. And that was what happened. And from decision to departure, it was 4 months. Like house gone, stuff. Oh, and we sold everything we own. And we packed 5 carry-on bags. That's it. That's still all we have. That's still it.
Well, that really epitomizes the whole less is more motto, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we really don't, like, there were times when it was laundry day and we're like, yeah, we can't leave the house. This year, this apartment, we don't even have a washing machine. So laundry day is really tricky because, you can't walk through town naked. So we really have very few possessions.
Right. So were the kids behind this decision, or were they young enough where they're like, yeah, it sounds good to us?
Well, Bianca was 5, and then Max and Henry were 8 and 9 when we left. And now Max is 20, Henry just turned 19, and Bianca will be 16 next week. And we are, I write about this a lot. So, but we're not a democracy. Our family it has to be anonymous or we don't move forward. So we have a whole decision-making process we go through with core values, with our core purpose, with our vision, and we just keep generating paths until everyone's on the same page. And that's how we ended up going back to the US, because the boys really wanted to try, high school after 7 years of world schooling. And we went back, and then the pandemic hit, and then lots of things happened. But we really don't ever do. And I think especially with teens, the voting was crucial, and it wasn't majority. It was like, okay, we still have 2 people that are not on this path. And so let's go back to the drawing board. Let's create more paths. And I know it sounds crazy. We've been doing it for so long that it's kind of the air we breathe. But I feel like our teens, we have really good relationships with them, and there's conversations are deep and they're meaningful. And it's about like, okay, Mom, I'm trying to figure this part of my vision out, and this piece doesn't really seem to match my core values, and this piece does. Those are the conversations that I get so excited. Like, if I can help you align with your path, that's, to me, it's not about our path. Like, everyone should do this. It's about helping you align with your path. That, to me, that's the stuff.
So just to understand this completely. So if you decide, or if somebody throws out there, hey, I think it's time for us to move. We've been here for 3 months. I'm getting a little itchy here. And somebody throws out an idea, it has to be unanimous that you guys are all going to, okay. Wow.
Yeah. And we don't take, someone's grumpy day as like our new path. It's like, okay, Ron and I usually bring it up and say, okay, going back to the United States is a big deal. Like, we don't own anything there anymore. Like, okay, let's think about, how does this work for everyone? What does your path look like? What does your path look like? If we can align, then we go. And I mean, it's led us, when we left, we had no idea how long we would be gone. We didn't set any time frame. We just said, everyone was saying, oh, you're going on a gap year. And we're like, okay. But 10 years, 10 years later, we're still out here.
Yeah, a gap decade. Wow.
And
it's still going.
It's become it is our life. I mean, we're a nomadic family, and the boys were anxious when they were starting university this year in a country we've never lived, by the way. And they were like, 3 years. 3 years. Like, how do you stay in one place for 3 years? So there's whole new skill sets that we're developing now, but it's not, we don't really look at any places. It's about global community. It's about global connection. It's about, the fact that these borders that are in our world don't really separate us. That was the goal.
So you mentioned you have very, very little possessions, which I am super jealous of that.
I just want your refrigerator that's behind you.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So ridiculous.
There's probably ice in there, which we don't have. Yeah, that's great.
There is. But I just feel like these possessions just kind of, they they weigh us down and bind us. So,
Yeah.
so incredible what you've done. What is your perception after being a nomadic for 10 years of money
So
and that whole kind
we
of
look at money
relationship?
completely differently than we did when we were leading like our American dream, path. We barter is, you probably know this but barter is alive and well in the world. It's just that I think in our culture, the more capitalist, we always expect to get something directly for something but we've noticed like in a lot of these other cultures we live, like we might barter for ski passes. We might give social media. But it doesn't have to be a direct agreement. It's kind of like, it's more of a contribution to the village, contribution to, I don't know. We use barter a lot. But the other piece is for example, we eliminated our number one expense, which was mortgage, when we left or rent or anything. We've house sat in both hemispheres in 20 plus countries, where we go on, and we say, we can take care of your pets. We can take care of your flower farm. We can take care of your vineyard. And then we have this really immersive experience in the south of France, putting the grapevines to bed, whatever. And we're not paying we have no, expenses. We're working for it. Like we're doing something, but then also it taught our kids like how to take care of animals, because we don't have them, and how to take care of other people's places, how to be a steward of the land, how to be a steward in the community, like all these things that, I don't know, we would have done it to some extent in our traditional American life, but this was like, oh, okay, you're in a village in Indonesia, and you're living here, and you're going to take care of, these animals, or you're taking care of an alpaca farm in southern Portugal, and and we're like, sure, sign us up. So that was huge. 6 out of 10 years, over time. I mean, sometimes it was 3 months, sometimes it was 1 month, but overall, we've been house sitting and living in other people's spaces and walking in other people's shoes. And I mean, what an incredible opportunity.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. I see that working both ways. I see it being like, wow, this is so incredible. And then I also see it as, wow, I'm in somebody else's place. And then at some point, does it just kind of feel like home, and you're okay with it? I know when I've been someplace for more than like 3 weeks or a month, sometimes I get itchy to like get back to my things and whatever. But I guess that's just not even entering your mind, because
Well, we don't have anything.
It's not even enough. No, you don't have anything to go back to.
If I had your refrigerator,
yeah.
I would definitely be wanting to get home. But I feel like for us, we are truly now, it's a muscle, just like any muscle. It's a muscle we've been exercising every few months for 10 years. And of course we slowed down as the kids got older, because they became teenagers. They wanted to date. They wanted to work. They wanted to be, important community members. Our daughter's now on a competitive snowboard team. So we've been wintering more in this place, because it is a place that feels like home. When we dropped the boys off at university, we said, oh, we'll see you, at Christmas. And they were like, where do you think that'll be? And we're like, we will let you know as soon as we know, but where do you want that to be? And they said Trevina. And so here we are.
And your boys, they're now off to university. Is it in Holland? Where are they?
Yes. One of them is in Groningen. I probably butchered that, but it's the northernmost tip of the Netherlands. And he wanted to be like sun, warm. That was his only criteria. So that didn't work out, because he can literally, it's freezing. But he's doing sports and exercise science. And then we have another son who is in Tilburg, which is more central Holland. And he is studying entrepreneurship and global innovation. But we never pushed university. If we know anything, it's that there's teachers around every corner. And we truly were Like, I mean, we found you when we were in this little Slovenian village, and we're like, oh, what is this? And we started listening to Jane and Anne and Essie, and we're like, whoa. So, I mean, I think, you can find what you're looking for anywhere, but university was a great opportunity for them to now build their community separate from us.
I have a couple follow-ups on that, what you just said there. First is, are the universities there free or greatly like reduced? Like, it's not like here in the States, right?
I'm so excited to tell you this because
25 to 75,000 a year, right?
This was the other piece that so my husband and I both, we were paying off student loans for, I mean, it felt like forever. I think definitely after our first daughter was born, because we were both teachers, and Seattle has very high cost of living. And it was, we both had master's degrees in education, and it took us forever to pay for those. And so one of the reasons for going for dual citizenship through my husband's lineage in Italy was that someday, and Bianca was only 5. So we said someday, if they choose, university in Europe will be an option. So the boys' tuition is $1,100 US a year.
Yeah. Bravo.
So how do we look at money? It's totally different, because, that the things, if we had sat at home and tried to plan this, we never could have seen it. And it was just taking that leap of faith, which I know is so true for so many people looking at whole food plant-based. It was just like, you just got to jump, and once you jump, then it's so much easier from the other side. And so for us, that's how it's been with the vegan eating too. But then I think some people jump, but then they stop, and they need everything to be. So for us, it's like, we're always jumping. We're always jumping, because change is like life. That's what we live for.
How did you happen to find the Esselstyn family in Slovenia, of all places?
Oh my gosh, such a long story, but I'll try to give you the short. But we really, my father had a massive heart attack 20 years ago, and he went through 5 to 7 years of his cardiologist just upping statins. And finally he was at a naturopath, because he was like, I can't take any more of this. Like, the side effects were just debilitating for him. And he was in a naturopath's office, and your dad was on the screen doing an interview. And he left there, went to Barnes & Noble, bought Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, and said, okay, this is what I'm doing. And his cardiologist said, if you do that, you're going to be dead in 3 months. And my dad said, well, thankfully he's like a Harley riding, 3 tours in Vietnam. He's like, I'm just going to listen to Essie, and I'll get back to you. So he did. But at that time we were still traveling, and we were, we spend extensive amounts of time with our family. Our families are from different coasts. We have family in New Zealand. A huge part of this journey was family. People always ask that, how can you leave your parents? How can you leave? But this journey has given us such intense time with extended family. So we kind of thought of it as a disease reversal. We didn't really think of it as, because there was no education around it. We didn't really, at that time, we didn't jump into it the way that he did, but it was always a really big part of our lives. But then re-entering the US every 2 years, re-entering the food system, it was like our bodies would just go, what is happening? And I mean, blood sugar numbers, cholesterol numbers, like high blood pressure, stress, everything, just thyroid, like stuff was just all over the map every time we would re-enter. And so it took us a while. Like, it was a slow, like the first time we're like, okay, we need to eat more organic, okay, we need to, do 0 kilometer, it's not kilometers, 0 mile, whatever that is. And then I thought, when we went back before the pandemic, just before, my husband got a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. And we were like, I mean, he doesn't look overweight. We just skied, 110 days in a season. But it was there. And that's when we realized, and there was a quote in a magazine. We were sitting in the doctor's office, and there was a quote in the magazine that day that said, like, you can't jump a chasm in 2 steps or in 2 leaps. And I was like, okay. So he, of course, being his lovely kind of rebellious self, said, so can I eat anything I want if I go on this metformin that you're laying out for me? And of course the doctor was like, no, you can have a half an orange and you can have all the usual, type 2 diabetes guidelines. And he was like, well, I need time because I'm going to do this differently. And that's when we went back to that moment in Slovenia when we listened to an interview, and I can't even remember. Seriously, thousands of hours with your family since then. But we listened to an interview and we were like, okay, we got to find them again. And of course, my dad never has fewer than 10 copies of your dad's book at any given time. And he will hand it to anyone who says anything about their heart. He literally is like, I got the book for you. So at that point, we had a meeting as a family and we just basically said, we need to do this for our health, but what do you guys want to do? And they were like, we're in. So we got the forks over knives meal planner. Next day, 100% whole food, plant-based. And then the pandemic hit and we were like, thank goodness. Like, what a blessing it is to know all of this right now. And, we're 100% committed. It's challenging at times with our lifestyle because food is culture. So, and I mean, up here, it's very, the cows, for example, there's a whole festival in September called Dasarpa where everyone goes to get the cows that are coming down from their summer breeding, grazing. And then the whole village walks with the cows down to the next village. And the cow that produces the best cheese and dairy has a beautiful, like, floral necklace around her neck. And the family walks with such pride. The connection to the food is remarkable, plant-based or not. It's really something to celebrate. And I just think these are lucky cows. They're so valued and prized. And so, there's times when, and then you get down to the next village and there's local meats and local cheeses, and there's always plants though. There's always plants.
Yeah. Always plants.
Always plants.
So what I want to do is I want to read an excerpt. Actually, this is an excerpt from you from Slovenia. You say, because to me, there's such teachable moments in all of your writings. You say, I realize coming into an experience with the absence of expectation is a brilliant, open perspective in which everything surprises and delights. Maybe excited anticipation is the right approach because of the openness inherent in uncertainty, where expectations are laden with ideas about how something will be. Anticipation is a feeling of infinite possibility. Slovenia was my teacher. I hope to remember all that she taught me from this day forward. And so I bring that up because it's kind of where you first got taught about whole food plant-based.
That's amazing. Right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
To make that connection now, because yeah.
Well, and of course that goes back to me then finding your blog post on your Thanksgiving dinner where you were trying to get the sweet potatoes, right?
Yeah.
So I've got so many wonderful quotes. Some are from you, some are from Rami, Walt Whitman, you name them. But I'd love to say them because I love quotes too.
Oh.
And then let's just kind of riff on it and then see where it takes us. Okay, great. So this one here, I think this is yours, is one thing that we know for sure after this past decade of wandering the globe as a family of 5 is that anything is possible. Stay open forever. So open it hurts. And then open up some more. until the end of your days and then do it again the next morning. I mean, wow, that just like hit me like a ton of bricks, because to me, it's all about being open and vulnerable, and as opposed to staying, closed up. But it's so hard to do that unless you kind of do it right and practice it like a muscle. So what is your advice to our audience about opening up?
I think you need to start wherever you are with everything. That's what I think. Like, there's so many how-tos, so many prescriptions, but I think the best way to illustrate this is when we were selling all of our belongings, wedding gifts and rocking chairs where we rocked the kids and all of everything. We sold this little key stand that was right by our front door. And I dropped my keys for 3 weeks after we sold that table. And I was like, what? I know it's gone. Like, what is happening? Why do I keep putting my keys somewhere that doesn't exist? And I think it's so important to just shuffle. Like, if you want to change things up and make yourself more flexible, it can be as simple as just moving the little key table. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I think we take in so much data, and everyone knows so much about what we should be doing. And I think what I've tried to say through my writing is, you know best when you're aligned. And if you feel stuck, or if you feel, it can be so simple as just taking a left instead of a right, running this way instead of this way. We don't even realize how habitual we are until we shake it up. And I think it's like, even I talk to people who in the Plantstrong 7-day challenge community, and I thought of this story today where, people say, I'm getting on a flight, what do I do? Or I'm going on a trip, what do I do? Or this member of my family isn't vegan, what do I do? And we had a swim teacher when our kids were little, and they would swim their laps with goggles and all of that. And then she would make them jump in at different times in every lesson without goggles. And I was like, what is she doing? We lived on an island, and she said, I want them to know what to do. They know what to do. Their bodies know what to do. But if they must have goggles on, they might not be able to do it. And I think that's so true about eating this way. It's like, we never have the same utensils. We never have the same kitchen. Sometimes we don't have an oven. Sometimes we don't have a stovetop. Sometimes we have no vegetables if the trucks can't get up. So it's like, there's always a way. And I think that's a really important thing. Like, goggles on, no goggles on, you can figure this out. And I think America is so convenient. We have, I think COVID was the pandemic was one of the first times a lot of people were very inconvenienced. I'm not talking about the tragic element of it, but just stuff. I mean, we were like so ready. It was like, we've lived in whole villages without toilet paper. Like, you have a hose, you're fine. Like, just, you don't need to worry about this. You don't need to hoard. It's an abundant universe. It's going to deliver what you need when you need it. And the best way to stay healthy is to not worry about that stuff. So
what's the longest period of time that you've been in one spot, and what's the shortest period of time?
So if we don't include the pandemic, because we went back to the States and then we stayed because we wanted to be closer to our aging or our parents. So the longest is probably New Zealand. And we ended up there we stayed until the last day before our visitor visa expired. I think it was 7 or 8 months. And then the shortest, we were planning on living in Bali, for a while. And then there was a lot of contrast. I mean, Bali's incredible, but there was a lot of contrast, and we knew we didn't want to be, getting luxury for cheap. That wasn't really our thing. So it was like, how can we make this more meaningful? And we ended up, this is a good story. We ended up teaching English at the only vegan ashram/orphanage temple in Indonesia.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if that's not a
I
sign.
actually, right, right. I actually have in my notes, I wanted to mention that. But you mentioned New Zealand,
Yeah.
right, as one of the places you stayed for the longest. And I have something I want to read about that. You say a few years ago, we took a house sitting assignment at an organic farm in Nelson, New Zealand. One of the reasons we travel is to have places to recall that we're full of profound learning. This farm changed us. It slowed us down as we ground the chicken feed by hand, waiting for the sun to warm the water for showers, tiptoed through the garden to see what bounty presented itself overnight, and rolled the hazelnuts to dry each side in the sun. We were able to learn from individuals that understood we were all accountable for our earth, no exception.
Yeah.
It is Earth Day, and we are forever grateful for walking in other people's footsteps and growing from their knowledge.
Mm.
Yeah, that's so great.
It was, I mean, that woman, she was one of the right-hand woman, the one that we house sat for. She was going to a bat conference in Tasmania to work on preserving the bat population. And she was the right-hand woman of the Green Party leader of the time in New Zealand. And it was, and the name, I mean, people around them were using pesticides, and she cared, but her vision was so far above tit for tat. It was like, we were just caught up in that whole river of just, there's always a way to make a change. There's always a way to influence the future without being combative, without being in someone's face, without disagreeing. As a matter of fact, if you do, you have a lot less, your chances of influencing that person. And you're so good at this. I mean, this is one of the things I love so much about the work that you do and your whole family does. It's not about judging the choices people are making. It's about showing them what can be different. And people will say to me all the time, well, how do I sell all my stuff? How do I travel through the world? I'm like, that's not the question. What's your why?
Yeah.
What's your why? Let's figure out what your why is and see if this is the right path. Because me telling you how to do it is not going to work. And I think that's what we took from that farm. I mean, it was just extraordinary.
Yeah. I have never been to New Zealand, but I would love to get there one day. Yeah.
It's far. Yeah. That's the thing. It's far. And I think it's worth every second, but you'll want time because the glaciers literally we're so high here that it makes perfect sense that there's glaciers out the window and things like that. But New Zealand, they drop into the sea, just right into the sea. And it's like, it's breathtaking. And and what I remember most about that farm is there was so much that we'd never seen. These apple cucumbers that were just, they were huge. And we would just slice them and make quick pickles like that. And we weren't vegan at the time. And we just ate everything from the garden I think we were there for 4 weeks or 6 weeks house sitting. I remember sitting outside after working in the garden all day and on the property all day and just looking up and seeing a completely different, different constellations, different sky. And it was like, whoa, this is amazing. Yeah. It's just.
You recently wrote about how, and I'm going to quote you here, we don't carry backup plans in our suitcases. They are too easy to unpack. It doesn't mean that we're not flexible with plan A. It means we give it our all. And as Emerson said, all life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. Our plan B is to accomplish plan A. That is so right on.
I'm so glad you think so. It's hard. There's times when, we get to the door and we're like, this isn't right. Like we can't stay here. And but we got there. we got to the door and we're like, okay, we're here and we're leaving. But there's times like Bali where there's so much contrast and we think, okay, we need to sit in this and we need to see where our point of contribution is. And we need to see what teachers are here. And we need to see, because contrast is the best teacher. And that's, I think where you see so many people come from a place of not feeling good, from a place of not thriving. And then they say, okay, I need to do something dramatic. But contrast is the best teacher. And I think that helps us when things don't go as we anticipated with plan A. But we always go for it. I mean, but that's because we work so tirelessly at what plan A is. I mean, because I said it's everyone has to be on the same page. We've spent a lot of time on plan A. Like if I was just like waking up in the morning, like we're going to Egypt or we're going to, then you're going to have teenagers saying, what the heck, what are we doing? What are you dragging me around? People always say, what about your teens? What do they want? What do they need? And it's like, ask them, they voted for this. Like, this is their choice. This is all of us together made this plan. And I know people say it's really unique and really time consuming, but I think, gosh, it's way less time consuming than arguing day in and day out, than butting heads, than, having all these, power struggles. To me, it's like, if you own your decisions at that age, I mean, watch out, world.
So empowering. We recently, for spring break, we went to Norway.
I saw. I love the cold.
Yeah. We did the cold plunges. We stayed on, right on the water on a fjord. The mountains and the water. I mean, I know that those are two things that are near and dear to you, obviously.
Oh yeah.
And I want to get back to that. But you have a quote. Actually, it's not yours. This is Pascal Mercier. He says, "We leave something of ourselves behind when we leave a place. We stay there even though we go away, and there are things in us that we can only find again by going back there." And I love that quote because of all the emotions that it brings up in me. Because I know sometimes I leave the farm, the Esselstyn family farm, and I know I won't be back for a year, right? Yeah. And I come back and it's like I just get flooded with all these emotions and memories and melancholy and just everything that you can imagine. Nostalgia. And so you mentioned, I think it was one of there was one place that you went. I'm going to see if I can find it. And you said it was like maybe in year 3 of your nomadic journeys. And you said, you know what? This place has been so special. We love it so much. I hope that we get to return. And you've been so many places you probably can't remember. But I'm going to find it for you. Let's see here.
Is it Southern Italy? Maybe Malta? Malta.
Year. It was Malta. No, it was Malta.
Yeah.
It was Malta. Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Well, and I think we have, so I think we, as you probably just experienced in Norway, we find a new piece of ourselves when we travel, because you don't need to travel to experience these awakenings, but travel is a shortcut. Because you're like, I don't speak the language. I don't know this food. I don't know this currency. And it's like, your senses are, that's why it's addicting, I think, because your senses are so alive in ways that you can't. I mean, if you move mindlessly crossing the street in Bangkok, you're done. You're not going home. So you have to be mindful. And I think we never thought about returning anywhere but home when we left. Like we weren't, it's like the world is big. We all want to see it all. Like my kids text me every day, like, did you see this? We got to do this pilgrimage in Japan. It's like, it'll only take us 7 days, but let's take 20, they're always like, and we have no way, we don't know how We literally have no how. When we thought about doing a ski season as a family of 5 in the Swiss Italian Alps, it was like, yeah, well, that would be nice. I mean, do you have an extra 50,000 or whatever?
Uh-huh.
And, we ended up moving our residency here, and our daughter's our kids' ski passes until they turn 18 are 82 euros a year, like $90 a year to ski in Zermatt and Slovenia for 6 months. It's like, you couldn't buy Nikes for that when we were in the US. So there's no, I think we get in our own way a lot when we try to come up with the how. We leave places and we say, I want to go back. New Zealand's one of those places because it's so far away. And when you leave, you think, bye. But I think we limit ourselves with once in a lifetime. I truly do. I think it's a glass ceiling we create. And I mean, we're not a wealthy family with trust funds just saying, oh, we're just going to, we have worked to create this, to reinvent ourselves, to grow, to attract these opportunities. It's not easy to get a house sit with 3 kids. People are like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. And then I'm like, but these kids, they care, and they're going to love your animals in ways your animals have never experienced because they really want animals.
And has that gotten easier for you to house sit once you say, look at our blog, look who we are? And
I mean, there's been times, when you feel the pressure to sell out online a little bit, like ads all over the place, and stay here in Paris or stay here in Singapore, and it's like, I just knew that was never me. You can find that information. That's out there. But I knew that for us, it was more about what's the legacy we're leaving for our kids. And when they read this in 100 years when we're gone, what will they know about who they are in the world? What will they know about what's possible? What will our grandkids and our great-grandkids know?
And I'm looking at a quote that you have in one of your posts, and it says, what will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly? Rumi. So I mean, that's you're showing your kids how to fly. It's incredible.
And I think there's a perception that it's about travel, but it's not about travel. It's about change. Everything is, and falling in love with change, which I know makes people really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you guys aren't afraid to roll up your sleeves and do the dirty work. And that leads me to this quote by Andy Andrews. Everybody wants to reach the peak, but there's no growth at the top of a mountain. It's in the valley that we slog through the lush grass and the rich soil, learning and becoming what enables us to summit life's next peak. So that's what you guys are doing. You guys are kind of going through the valley, up to the peak, through the valley and up to the peak. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh my gosh. And it's not judging where you are. I think that's so important because it's so hard these days with social media, with even, it's so hard to take it as a comparison instead of an inspiration. Now, if we're around people that have seen the pyramids, something I really want to do, or the Northern Lights, something I've missed a million times for some reason, or even the Statue of David. I've spent more time in Florence than a lot of people, and that man eludes me for some reason. It's either closed or under construction, or it's the weirdest thing. But I know that just being, where was I going with that? Anyway, I feel like you do, that you can't judge where you're at in relationship to others, only where you're at in relationship to yourself. And if you do that, if you're focused on your own alignment, your own capacity to contribute, literally the red carpet of the world opens. And I'm not saying we try not to say what we are, if people read bios, it's like, you're this, you're this, you're this. And there's all these little emojis to kind of describe who you are. And we just try to be as open as we can, as often as we can. Yeah. And when that doesn't, it doesn't feel good anymore to keep going, then we'll stop. But I don't ever see that. I don't ever see that.
Well, and that's because you guys, as Ralph Waldo Emerson said, don't be too timid and squeamish about your actions. All life is an experiment. The more experiments that you make, the better. You guys are just connecting those experiments one after the other.
And the world is so small. And I think we have a tendency in the US to be, or as parents, and not just the US, but I can't speak about other cultures because I wasn't parented in them. But we have a tendency to be like, you need a plan, you need a plan A, you need a plan B, you need a plan C, you need, and you need to be thinking about this all the time. Like literally once we left the US, nobody asked us what we did for a living. Nobody asked our kids where they were going to university. Nobody cared. We've been in cultures where there isn't even a future tense in the language. It's like, whoa, like what? Or where you're learning about the history of your country from a different country's point of view. And you're like, wait, that's not how the Vietnam War started, or that's not how. And you realize, whoa, it's just a story from a different country's point of view. And I think I drive people crazy sometimes because there's no how to. It's like you're the map. Like whatever, when you're aligned, when you're tapped in, when you're tuned in. And when you're not, it's your work, and for us, leading an intentional life and not eventually looking at what we're eating would have been a hypocrisy, right? Because it was like, okay, there's a point when, there was a point in Bali when, before we found the ashram and the orphanage where we taught, where there was burning plastic outside of our place we had rented every day. It was toxic black smoke. And we were like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? This is horrible. Why doesn't anybody do this differently? And then the next day we're coming back and my daughter says, Mom, they're burning our garbage. And I was like, huh, okay. So someone would come in and, pick things up after us. And then it was our plastic. And that's when all of us went, there's no separation. We're all part of the whole. Our actions, in fact, impact everything. Everything impacts us. Like we're all connected. What can we do differently? What can we do better? And it's not someone else's fault. It's not a culture that might not, know what you know. I mean, it's amazing. It's so easy as Americans to feel like we have all the answers, but we don't.
Well, so you mentioned Bali, and it was there that you guys worked in the orphanage.
Yeah.
You also, for about 2 months there, you decided that you wanted to come unplugged from social media.
Yes.
And so I'd love to talk about that for a second. And you say, you were reflecting on Mary Oliver's words. This is the first, the wildest, and the wisest thing that I know, that the soul exists and is built entirely out of attentiveness.
Yes.
When social media, this is you now, when social media feels like it is enhancing attentiveness, stay on.
Yeah.
But when it is detracting and distracting our ability to be attentive, then I think it's time to log off. Sometimes we forget signing out is even an option. Do you need a break? Do you need a break today? I love that. And I can't tell you how many times one of my children is just head down into that thing and he is not present. And it is so upsetting to me.
It's hard.
Yeah. And so we're having some really powerful conversations. And then you go on to say, this is what I love. This is you. There is nothing more romantic than absolute presence.
I believe that.
And it's so hard to get that these days.
It is, but we still have the power. And I think that's what we forget, because the big companies, just like in our food systems, are saying, oh, you need this for this alarm and you need your to-do list on here. And I'm like, we every time we've taken these breaks, we have these moments of panic, like, oh, I didn't look this up, or, someone. So here's the cool thing, that when we did that in Bali, there was a business card of a driver and in the apartment. And I was like, okay, I picked that up. I used the phone to call him and book a tour. And he picked us up the next day. And after spending 3 days with us, he took us to this ashram where he told us later, after he picked us back up, that he was an orphan there growing up.
Yeah.
And this place changed the course of our lives. Like, it was the only one of the few places we've been in the world where you're just walking on pure love. I mean, people donate animals for him to feed the kids, and they're just more mouths to feed because he would never eat an animal. This monk that runs this place is just the most incredible place. And
how did you find it?
The driver drove us there. And I remember calling my mom and saying, we're going to be out of touch for a while because we're going. And she was like, what? Where are you going? We're like, well, we're just going to trust it. She's like, okay, what? And I just said, we're just going. We have 3 little kids. And it's just that trusting that heart map and just knowing when it's the right decision. And the kids had their own lessons. They taught classes. I mean, Bianca was 7, I think, and they were teaching, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. They were teaching, different things that we were eating with. They were teaching English, and they were young and they were right next to us and they knew they were safe and we knew we were safe. And it didn't matter how crazy the idea was. It was just, and it was our first immersion. I remember our son, Henry, who's the sports and exercise, on the way there, he's like, can we pull over and have some meat, before we get there? And we were like, you'll be fine. Right. And this 97-year-old lady would walk up the hill every day to get water, to bring down to the bakery, the one oven where they would bake all the bread for the village. And I said to her, why do you do this? And she said, I love the bird song. I love the smell of baking bread. I love that the kids follow me. It makes me feel important. I love that I'm doing something that brings life to the village. I mean, karma yoga came out of that experience. She said to me, is it true that you hire someone to mow your lawn and you go to a gym to exercise?
Yeah.
And I said, some Americans do that, And she was like, why? When you can cut the grass, smell the grass, hear the birds, feel the wetness, on your feet, why would you miss that to go inside? It's pretty powerful.
No, super powerful.
And I think about that.
You and your
chopping all day, when you're chopping all day, because I don't have Plantstrong foods, unfortunately. That would be great.
Right. You and your husband and your children, so together, moving through this, this decade. And I read about how you and your husband had very little kind of alone time together. And then one time he took you to this incredible trail called Narnia. And and you said it was super, super special. But it sounds like you guys have a pretty incredible marriage. And I've got some quotes that I have of yours that I'm having a hard time finding right now. But, one of them is, I think it's Audrey Hepburn said something like, I don't want to just be married. I want to be very, very married.
Yep.
Right. And so, what would you say to people that are out there right now and they're married, but they don't feel very married? You have any suggestions?
I think getting out of what's comfortable in clothes, not getting out of clothes, but that works too. But getting out of, in dressing up, going to do something, going dancing, going to hear live music, going anything real, going for a hike, going for a walk. Half the time our dates are, 10 o'clock in the morning when the kids were, training on the mountain or doing something else. It doesn't have to be date night. We'll light candles for breakfast. It can be just like everything I say. It can be right here, right now. Put your phone down, take a bath, go for a walk. I mean, last night it was a beautiful night and it's been really stormy and still snowing here. And we just went for a walk and looked at the stars. And it was we have other stuff to do. I have vegetables to chop. I've got 2 kids in college. I've got to pay for that, even though it's, much more reasonable.
Yeah.
But I think it's such a gift. You need so much less time when you're present, because you don't feel like there's this one night and it better be great. We have Friday night and it better be great. And that leads to other things, like maybe not taking as good of care of yourself when you go out to eat or things like that, because it's like you're just wanting it to be everything. And I think I learned this in France, actually, from French women, that I kept saying, like, how do you look good all the time? Like, you're wearing stilettos on like cobbles and you walk like you're, walking on air, and you look beautiful and you have no wrinkles and no goggle tan. And she said, we learn to do a little every day, always. And it's like, that was so counterculture to me.
When she said we learn to do a little, you mean for themselves?
Yeah. Like it's totally acceptable to, self-care, to invest in those products, to invest in those meals, to invest in those experiences. It doesn't need to be expensive. There's, the fountain of youth running through different regions where the water is really therapeutic. So like you saw in Norway too, it's so important to make in a relationship, I think, to make those small deposits every day. And it can be as simple as lighting candles at breakfast, putting the phones away, going for a walk. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. And I think we get caught up in grand gestures. Just like when people think, oh, did you see the Colosseum? Did you see the Eiffel Tower? Did you see, there's all these things on our list, these big things. But, did you see how everybody goes for a walk every day at 4:00? Like, that's my favorite time of day in Italy. Every day.
Yeah.
It's just so magical. No one's going anywhere. There's nowhere to be. It's just about walking. And we tried to do it during the pandemic. Like, we were like, okay, we're going to do passeggiata here in Bellingham, Washington. And it was always like, I should be cooking. The kids have school. We've got to do this. It was just hard. Every culture's taught us some new rhythm, some new gift that.
Yeah. It's, I love hearing everything that you're sharing. And it reminds me, we love doing stuff as a family, whether it's hiking down to the creek and, looking for turtles, whether it's going to the boundary waters for 10 days and just, not seeing another human being and just being our family, going to Norway. But my favorite thing as a family is when we have dinner together around the Lazy Susan table and we get to share our days. And because we very much like you guys, but not to the extent, but because we do our best to have these really special adventures together as a family, I think when we come together at dinner, we all, I think, really look forward to it. And, our lives get busy and we're doing this and that. So that little moment, and we'd say we probably can do it four evenings a week for about an hour, is just, it's so delicious. Love it.
Because it's delicious to you, it does. We always talk about modeling, like, it's not what you say, right? If I'm yelling at them to put their cell phones down and pay attention and I'm on my phone, it doesn't land. So it's because you're leading that charge through who you are when you're sitting around the table, because you're aligned when you're sitting around the table. You're aligned when everyone's around you that you love the most in the world. Then people can't help but be drawn to that flame. And I think that that's so true in marriage as well. It's like, what are you doing to keep that flame going? And then people just come. Like, people will always say, how did that opportunity come? And I'm like, literally, we set the dream and then we detached, and I think detachment is so important. And then we don't have an idea. Once you decide how something's got to happen, even a plant-based meal, it would be impossible. If I thought, oh, I need a blender and I need a food processor. If I plugged a blender now, I would blow the whole village circuits. It would not work. So it's like, I was so excited. I bought flax seeds a couple weeks ago and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can bake. I can make, flax eggs, and they're whole, right? And I mean,
Need to be
like
ground.
I need to get like a boulder, and I don't even know. So I just have this bag of black seeds. So I think just, just being okay with not understanding the how and not carving that out. Not having expectations for how people show up to the table, because if your flame is going, you're going to attract something different from others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
Earlier we were talking about in France and the women that take care of themselves. So I want to. This is an observation that you made in Italy. You said, I spent today in Italy observing women, reflecting on the women in my life that have shaped me, and hanging out with my favorite young woman on the earth, my daughter, Bianca. It struck me that I always know who the strongest women are because they spend time building people up and they don't have any interest in doing the opposite. Thank you to all the women, past and present and future, who focus on building our global community by strengthening others one moment, one word, one decision at a time. You give me hope and fill me with courage just by being you. Brilliant. And way too many people try and tear other people down.
Oh my gosh.
And I find women are so strong and so incredible, so supportive. And I just read that passage that you wrote on one of your Instagram posts, and I just had to bring it up.
Thank you for saying that. And the women in your family are people I was thinking about when I wrote that post. Like I truly have been, my life is so much richer for not knowing them. But now, like when you're talking to me, it's so surreal because I feel like that's another gift that your family has, where it always feels like you're talking to me, even though, this is the first time. And it's such a gift. And I think that strength, recognizing that we can get that from what we put into our bodies, even for women, and men, but there's so many changes at different stages through pregnancy, childbirth, menopause, all of those things. And like listening, what do I need now? How do I shift this? And I just get so many answers from the women in your family.
Yeah. Thank you. What do you think of when I say this quote from Shel Silverstein? But this bridge will only take you halfway there. Mm-hmm. The last few steps you have to take alone.
Oh my gosh. I just see us walking over so many things, even when we were together, where we all had our own fears. Sometimes we all had our own agendas. We come into things like thinking that things are going to go a certain way, and there's this perception that they're not. And I also think about my teens. Like I feel like in the US, sometimes we don't celebrate the teen years the way that we should, in that teenagers are so full of life. And people will reply to me so many times and say, I can't believe you let him jump off that cliff, or I can't believe you let him, you're an irresponsible parent. Well, I've heard it all. And it's like, okay, if they don't test their boundaries with me, they're going to test their boundaries without me. And the chances of that being as healthy as cliff jumping is slim to none. So let's just, let them figure out what their boundaries are and take those steps alone.
Those were some incredible cliff jumps that your son or your sons took, especially the one where he had to take like 3 steps and then he kind of did a little flip in the middle of the air and landed just right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I can tell you that we love cliff jumping. It's super exhilarating, and it lets you know you're alive.
Yeah. And I think, we realized early on, like Wayne Dyer used to always say, like, what other people think about you is none of your business. And I love that. It's like, so true. Like, I mean, someone has an opinion, even if you're doing everything that they want you to do. There's not going to be something that's right. So it's really important. If you're coming from a place of love, coming from a place of contribution, that's enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to throw out another Rumi quote for you.
Please.
Beyond what we wish and what we fear may happen, we have another life as clear and free as a mountain stream.
I think,
yeah. Where does that take you?
Oh, right where I am. I mean, I feel like the Alps, any mountains, are just, and I know a lot of people don't have access to mountains, but if you've one of the things that's so powerful now with the visuals that come in at us all day long is that we can put ourselves anywhere. And I think, you, in your mind's eye, you can go there. And, when we left on this journey, there was no idea. We had no idea where we were going, what we were doing, where we were living. I mean, I remember driving around one time for like 7-8 hours going like, where do we live? Because we went to a house that wasn't safe for the kids and it was sight unseen. And we're like, we're not staying here. And just that, like, the flow of the streams in these mountains, the energy, the power, the sacrifice that they make, like, it's an incredible. Water is just, as you know, I mean, I know it's really important to your family, and I just feel so small in all the right ways, and I love that feeling.
Did you love the mountains before you went on your nomadic journey, or was it something that hit you when you were over there?
We loved it, but I mean, I remember once we drove over the border because we're really close to Whistler, and it was a beautiful day, and we were like, okay, how much would it cost for our family to ski? The kids were little, like 3, 5, and 6. It was like almost $2,000 to outfit everybody, get tickets for one day. And I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. You know, I'm not doing that. And so for us, we always had a passion for the mountains, for skiing. My husband and I both love to ski, but this was like, it gave us the opportunity to make that happen. And I think, I don't know if we ever would have found it otherwise. If we set the goal when we had really no idea how to make it happen. We just ever since college, I was like, I want to do a ski season. And then I'm like, so many people say it's too late. It's never, ever too late. You know, so we're basically ski bums because we can ski all day, and then 8 a.m. in Seattle is 5 p.m. here. So then we start working. So, and chopping.
Right. You have this quote about a hike that you had in Refugio del Oriente.
Yes, I could see. Oriente, perfetto. Yeah, perfect.
You say, I love the mountains, and trekking in the autumn in the Italian Alps is one of my happiest places. This was our hike to Refugio del Oriente, and you have a wonderful photo of it. And I never want to forget the tiny, sweet mountain blueberries that we picked on the way up, or the sound of the mountain marmots bounding through the dry grass. The seemingly impenetrable blue sky backed the sound of the kids' breath as they napped on the hot stone at the top, the deafening roar of the waterfalls, and the gentle sway of the golden pines. All moments I hope to always remember. Again, I read your passages and I'm transported there. I feel it. In this visceral, very, very powerful, visceral way. And so I would say anybody that, loves kind of what you're hearing right now, check out your blog, check out your Instagram. Do you have Facebook too? I have no idea.
Yes, yeah. Livology. It's Livology blog on Facebook too. Yes. But I mean, we're not influencers in the way that we have drones and we're traveling to take images of certain things. We're moving through the world, hoping to move through with other people that want to connect with us and our mindfulness practices and things like that. But it's not like this very packaged thing. It's like, it's really authentic, organic. We post when we can. There's times when the Wi-Fi goes out and we can't do anything. So it's, and there's no ads at all on the site. It's just the words.
Yeah. It's absolutely divine. You say here, this is a quote from Alan Watts. You didn't come into the world, you came out of it. Like a wave from the ocean, you are not a stranger here. And I think that you wrote that in your most recent blog post where you talked about the sea.
Yeah. And leaving the boy.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it was a real separation, leaving them, because we've been like this unit for so long, not isolated at all, just moving through the world, going with that flow and figuring out each other. And it was like literally losing a limb there for a few months. And then the sea just restored us back to whole. It was like, we don't need geographic proximity to stay connected. And I'm not even talking about technology, just in our hearts. As we all know, when we've lost people and their wisdom has come to us in times that we absolutely needed it to, or when we've fallen to our knees in reverence of something that totally took us, whether it's a tree or a crashing wave or a church. I mean, there's so much there if we're aware and alert and attentive and just open.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's so important.
Yeah. How is Bianca handled things without her two brothers?
Oh my gosh, it was really hard. But it's amazing. They're almost closer because we don't like anything. You don't have the ease of dining together. You don't have the ease of, bumping each other in the hallway or whatever. And so it was excruciating, but we were just all in it. And we found a place to go that we knew. And I know it sounds privileged to say, well, we went to the Italian Riviera to renew but that's really not it. We don't own anything. We haven't owned a car since 2012. Like it cost us $35 from here to get to the sea. It's not like it's this big thing, but because we don't have a house, it's like, that's our house. And so we knew we needed the sea. Like there was something like, okay, we just need that time. And we need to be connected to nature and to each other. But she had her own journey during that time. It was very her taking those 2 steps that you talked about, that you said in that quote. Like she really had to walk that. And they found their way. And the kids have never been able to compete like on teams and things like that because we're always moving around. And this season, because we wanted to stay closer to them, we're here for the whole season. And so she was able to join a competitive team, and they asked her to join, and they kind of sponsored her and made it possible. And she tutors 5 to 6 kids in the village in English, and she walks dogs, and she has all those teenage things, dates and teenage things that are really important. And we had to kind of change our lifestyle to make that work.
I would imagine at first it felt a little empty, but now you probably things have rebalanced and probably finding a whole new kind of flow and life with just the 3 of you in where you are right now.
Well, she says all the time, like all the biscotti is still here, or all the, it's like, she's 2 brothers and she's super hardy. Like she'll do crashes and people are like, oh my God. Like she's a 2 brother strong crasher. So she's really coming into her own, which is incredible. And she's like, sometimes she'll say it's a lot, it's just a lot of attention, Mom and Dad. Like you guys just need to because we're used to 5, family of 5, but it's been, we're so excited for the summer together and to whatever it holds. I'm not entirely sure.
I found what I was looking for about what I wanted to say about you and your husband, because it just to me is it's so potent. And you say, "You are my home and my adventure all at once." It's hard to believe 21 years ago, our honeymoon was the first time that I stepped foot in Europe. Today, as we celebrate exploring the Croatian islands, I will repeat what I said on our wedding day. I am just at the beginning of loving you. And then the Audrey Hepburn quote, and you get, and like you said, you've got great role models, right? Like between your parents and his parents, like 56 and 67 years together.
And thanks to your dad's book, my parents are in Hawaii this week celebrating their 56th wedding anniversary. And they met there when my dad was on leave from Vietnam and my mom was teaching English. And, there were times when it looked like he wouldn't be with us. And it's just magical. I feel like your family has been magical for us. And it's, people get starstruck with Hollywood. I'm like, if I see you guys, I see Dr. Greger, I'm like, Dr. Clapper's going to be on the cruise. I gotta go. Like, I want you to know how much it's connected our family and changed the course of our family's history.
Well, I think that's a great segue. Just you expressing your gratitude to these mindfulness practices that have helped you move through the world with an open and grateful heart. And you have this thing there, I think you call it pattern practice, right? And then you also, you teach this course as well. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about pattern practice and this course.
Thank you for asking. They're called the daily livets or the weekly livets now. But we every month I write a blog based on a theme. And this for April, it was open, and May is a surprise. And then once a week we email a mindfulness practice with a photo and a quote, because we share our love for quotes. And we are doing, these are our practices. It's like these are the things we've learned from the world. And we have, we're practicing with people, anyone who signs, and I think it's $20 for a lifetime of mindfulness. So it's not about the money. That just covers like, the mail distribution and things like that. But it's basically knowing, like I've said about everything, that you can literally do, even if you just read the livet, it has the power to shift how you are in the moment, how present you are, how aware you are. And we never claim to be perfect at this. We're practicing, just like plant-based. It's a practice, it's growth, it's change, it's embracing what's best for us. And we stopped doing them for a while during the pandemic, and we changed the whole framework and we realized like we kind of lost some momentum. And I mean, the world lost momentum. So we were mirroring, but we were so used to like being able to move through things. And then when we started them again, we just started feeling like the mountain stream, like flowing, like, okay, here we go. What's next? And so that's what it is. It's just one mindfulness practice a week, and we're all practicing together, people from all over the world. And also we share practices that we've learned for like the Balinese, offerings are just this amazing thing. And I mean, there's just practices pulled from everywhere we've been.
Do you, looking back on what you've done since, and did you start this in 2013?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but looking back, so over the last 11 years, do you find it to be a courageous step that you made, or how do you see it?
I think it shocked a lot of people, but for us, it was just going back to what we know. I mean, when I was 14, I went to what was then the Soviet Union, with a performing group, and my husband had wandered, and we both, like, when we found each other, we did what everyone told us to do and settle down and be responsible. And then we were like, we don't need any of this stuff. We just want to explore. And so I think the courageous thing was listening to ourselves over the naysayers or the people that were speaking from a place of fear, which, you bump up against all the time with whole food plant-based too. There's a lot of fear about where are you getting your protein? Where are you getting, you have growing kids. What are you doing to them? And instead of listening to what you know to be aligned and what you know to be true, that is true of any of us, wherever we stand on the globe geographically, we can always listen to ourselves over people that are speaking from a place of fear. Because it's never about us. That's courageous.
Right.
But I mean, you run into burning buildings and save people. So I would never call myself courageous, only in that we're finding that we're more able to contribute and more able to make the world a better place by wherever we are, by listening to those loving, inspired paths that come to us versus what we should be doing.
Yeah. I am so grateful for this conversation, for you being so game to come join me on the Plantstrong podcast. I want to close, Colleen, with this quote that you wrote, and then there's a little poem. Oh. And then I want you to feel free to say anything you want, but I think this is an appropriate way to kind of close out this conversation that we've had. Sometimes, yeah.
Sorry, I wrote a little thing. I wanted to read to you too for your family.
Oh, but fantastic! Well, how about if you do it after I do this?
That would be great.
Pull it up and you go for it. All right. Sometimes I look over the many autumns of our travels, and I wonder where the time has gone, while also feeling so thankful for the places that we have been together. I see the little faces of our children looking up at the camera with their excited 5, 8, and 9-year-old eyes, and I can't believe they were ever that small. As the ink is drying on the boys' university applications in Europe, I am more thankful than ever for each passing day with them. I wanted to share one of my favorite poems ever with you today, written by Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. I love the autumn, and yet I cannot say all the thoughts and things that make me feel this way. I love walking on the angry shore to watch the angry sea, where summer people were before, and now there's only me. I love wood fires at night that have a ruddy glow. I stare at the flames and think of long ago. I love the feeling down inside me that says to run away, to come and be a gypsy and laugh the gypsy way.
I love that poem. I think it speaks for itself. She says it better than I ever could. But it is about time. Like, it's all about time. And it's funny, we used to feel a huge lack of time. And we cut out a lot of the things that took our time, the stuff, the cars, the activities. We still do. We do a ton of those things in a day, but there just seems to be an abundance of time. And I don't meet a lot of people that feel that way. And when the kids went to university, I can honestly say, when the boys left, it was like, I'm so grateful. Like, I remember when we signed one of them up for daycare when I had my first, and I didn't know how much love I was capable of until I had my first. And then I was like, we went to this daycare to take him because I was working, and she said, we won't tell you if he takes his first step or if he says mama or if he says his first word, so that it'll be a first for you. And I quit everything. I was like, I'm not doing anything but being with this kid, and we're going to figure it out, because I don't want it to be a fake first. I don't want you to not tell me. I want to see it. And I can honestly say, and my husband and I too, like, we have spent extenuous amounts of time together, and we're so excited for any time we spend with them in the future. But we're not delusional that we're all going to be geographically, because we've taught them, it's a global community and they could be anywhere. And I know that we'll be connected.
Bravo. What do you have for me?
Okay. So that's just a little love letter to your family. The first word we learn in every country is thank you, and that those words don't seem sufficient for this letter. My first draft of this letter was about all we would have lost without the work your family has done. The final draft, however, is about all we have gained. Because of your family, our family has reverse heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, seasonal allergies, reactive airways, teenage acne, just to name a few. Because of your family, our family has celebrated birthdays, anniversaries, holidays that would have been cut short, missing loved ones that would have passed. Because of your family, our family has the joy of card games with grandma and grandpa, planting gardens with aunts and uncles, contagious laughter as we work to transform generational recipes into Plantstrong versions. Because of your family, our family has the gift of time. As Dr. Seuss penned, the alternative is someday asking the question, how did it get so late so soon? Yes, it's about the food, but it's something more. The legacy you're passing on is about the will to live and thrive and run and dive. It's about the will to love fiercely and not leave this earth too soon. It's about how we care for ourselves, yes, but also about our dedication to our family, our parents, our children, our grandchildren, and our global community. Mother Earth. It is about connectedness and how we are all part of the whole, not just for our generation, but in honor of all those that have come before, and for pioneering thought and aligning action for all those still to come. Gracias, dankuvel, merci, termina kashi, arigato, obrigada. Thank you for inspiring, inquiring, sharing, and daring us all. Grazie infinite, pianta forte. Infinite thank you, Plantstrong. Even this doesn't seem sufficient. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Colleen, it was beautiful. Beautiful. I've really enjoyed the last 90 minutes with you. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to talk to you and to express my thanks in person, because I haven't had the chance to do that, but I'm sure your ears have been burning from the Mariotti and my parents and everybody. And I'm looking for, I didn't tell my parents about this, so I'm going to share it with my dad for Father's Day. And thank you for that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I truly hope that our paths cross in person, not just over a computer screen, sometime in the future.
Me too. And it's on our dream board to go to a Plantstrong event, plant stock or anything. Like I would just love to, because the kids are on their own now and they're trying different things. And I think it would be such a good way to come back to what we know and have all those ingredients that you have in the US. We can't get.
If you're in the US in August, we're having our first in-person live plant stock again since COVID.
Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, and we could eat something besides minestrone, which is what we're having tonight, because it's Italian dinner time.
Yeah.
Thank you,
well,
Rip.
hey, Colleen, will you hit me with a big virtual Plantstrong fist bump on the way out?
Yes.
Boom. All right. Hey, Colleen, keep it Plantstrong.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ciao.
Colleen's blog, once again, is livology.com, and I guarantee it will inspire you to live just a little more freely, whatever that happens to mean to you. Until next time, don't be afraid to explore, ask a stranger for help, and always, always keep it Plantstrong. The Plantstrong podcast team includes Carrie Barrett, Lori Kordowich, and Amy Mackey. If you like what you hear, do us a favor and share the show with your friends and loved ones. You can always leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And while you're there, make sure to hit that follow button so that you never miss an episode. As always, this and every episode is dedicated to my parents, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. and Anne Cryle Esselstyn. Thanks so much for listening.